The humble Holden Gemini, once made what 50 odd horsepower to the wheels, now makes over 400. It's fully engineered. It's a perfect example of what is a great full boost street car.
A lot of guys will build these high horsepower cars and they won't engineer them, and if they get pulled over, as me and my dad always say, it's a street car until it's not a street car.
Best thing about your Gemini, Corey, is the fact it doesn't have an SR20 engine in it, yeah?
Or an LS.
Or an LS.
Or an LS.
Or an RB. What?
Yes.
Well, 13B, everyone puts everything in these now, but everyone's gone back to their roots in every car, and everyone is much more appreciative of a car with the factory engine in it, yeah?
Yeah. We've just upgraded. They come out with a 1600,
but
we've gone to the 1800. They're just a bit stronger for boost, and we've just found they've always worked a bit better with the boost applications. So
what engines did these come out with out of the factory?
Isuzu G161, which is a 1.6 litre, and this is the G180, which is a 1.8 litre.
So this never came out with a 1.8 factory?
Overseas they did, when they were in, obviously, the Japanese models, they come out with the 1800s. But yeah, these are out of the Rodeos.
Yeah, Rodeos, yep. Now you guys, well in Victoria at least, you guys are probably the most prominent Gemini
I'd
family
say so.
in Melbourne, I reckon.
Yep.
This one behind us, well, there's been a few incarnations of Geordie behind the camera had big PSI.
Yep.
And this was low PSI.
Low PSI, yep. Still
everyone used to call it Lopsy.
Yep.
Still running the plates, but let's have a look at the street car first. Now, unlike many cars, this thing's engineered.
Yes, fully engineered. So we thought we'd get it fully engineered. That way, if we're driving along and the police see it, they see a H plate on it, they see radials or smell the E85, they just, we've had highway patrol drive past us, say the M plate, and they just keep driving.
Yeah.
Just a bit of security for us to know that it's done properly.
Yeah. But this one's a little bit different. You guys have built a lot of Geminis, but you actually bought this thing.
Yeah. So originally, about maybe 10-ish years ago, a guy in Canberra approached Dad and said, "Hey, I see you build Geminis. I've got a Gemini that I want you to build for me." So he pretty much sent the car down to us. Dad pretty much put the whole thing together, from the motor to the diff, roll cage, painted it, everything. The guy raced it once, only went 11 something. He got scared of it pretty quickly. Took it back up to Canberra and drove it maybe 500 kilometres, and it sat for 7-8 years. Then he just randomly, Dad and I was talking about him one day, and randomly got a call saying, I'm moving into state, if you want to buy it, give you the first option. And the price that he gave us, we couldn't get to Canberra any sooner.
I remember when you told me what you paid for it, I was like, are you sure you want that car? Because I got the money waiting. Yeah, it was a bargain.
It was an absolute bargain, We paid for this, you couldn't even build the motor nearly for the price that we paid for the whole car. We got up to Canberra, we bought a battery, some fresh E85, and, cranked it over. One of the fuel pumps wasn't working. We're cranking it and tapped the fuel pump, started straight up like it'd been running the day before. Such a great car. We're nearly going to drive it back from Canberra, but we just thought, no, we'll trailer it to be safe.
Have you changed the setup much from how you bought it?
The only thing we've changed is the intake manifold. And like some of the cooling setup. This is sort of like the dummy car that Dad's done for other customers, and if someone comes up and says, hey, I want a setup that makes this much power as a cruiser, this is the proven setup, and this is our dummy car.
You can try a few things on.
Yeah, exactly right. So it had a custom intake manifold on it, and Plasma Man started making up their own setups. So we obviously put the Plasma Man setup on it. Looks a lot nicer than what was on there, and changed the whole look of the engine bay.
So what's done to this one, engine-wise?
Just rods, pistons, and obviously all your stuff in the head, and it's on E85, injectors, turbo. That's really
they're pretty stout little engines though, aren't they?
Well, this on the dyno made 306 kilowatt 9 years ago, and we haven't had it on the dyno since.
In the old money, that's a bit over 400 horsepower out of a little 1.8.
Exactly. It's got a precision 62 ball bearing on it, and that comes on boost really quick. Yeah, it's a great little car.
But you've got, this one's an automatic, yeah?
Yeah, this has got a Gemini Trimatic in it, with a 7-inch converter in it. And yeah, this car, if I could daily drive this, I would daily drive it. It nearly drives better than my daily. Yeah, it's just the fueling side of it that'd get expensive. It just drives like a normal car.
Yeah.
That's the best part about it.
I don't reckon I've been in a Gemini for 10 years.
Like I've driven this to and from Heathcote before.
Yeah.
You know, being on E85, we sort of go up through Romsey and Lancefield and stuff like that, up through the hills, and you know, the hottest I got was 78 degrees, and I used just under a full tank of fuel on E85.
Just got a bit of a flutter, nice turbo flutter.
Yep, just a nice little sound for it.
So obviously 400 horsepower at the wheels in a little Gemini. Now this would weigh what, 1,000?
About 1,000 kilos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to equate to a pretty quick little car, yeah.
Yeah, well, we've raced it once or twice. It went 1040. It had no mile an hour because the crank angle sensor decided to crap the bed. So it rolled across with, I think it was like 110 mile an hour or something. But yeah, it's gone 1040. It's a 9-second car when we take it out next, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and it's only on 28 pound.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've had it on.
Is this one of your manifolds, or is this?
Yeah, so that's one of Dad's manifolds. He's made hundreds of them over the years, so they're proven setups. And you know, another thing, as you know, Dad's tested it on his car, and no, we've never had any dramas at all with them. It's gotten to the point where someone bought one off us. They liked the design, sent it off to China, and got it remade, and
Standard.
Yeah, so they must work. I mean, if people are doing that.
Yep.
Other people have sort of, you know, bought them off us and remade them to sell them again, and yeah, it's just one of them things these days.
Yeah. What's the ignition setup here?
It's got a LS1 full coil setup through the Haltech Elite. That's obviously all custom. Louis made all that up.
What I love about Geminis is, considering they're an old car and they came out with no power.
Yeah. 57 horsepower.
Is how strong the factory drivelines are out of the box. It's not like you're having to put in mismatch 9 inches and.
Well, that's like on the drag car. Dad had a Gemini diff in that and went 920 on a Gemini diff. Full Gemini driveline from the engine all the way back, went 920 at 148 mile an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
And then obviously changed to the coilover rear end, so put a Borg Warner diff in it. This is a Gemini diff with Commodore 28 spline axles and an Ultra 9 diff center.
Yep.
That's been shortened to fit the Convo Pros.
All the old fashions from the 90s with cars have all come.
They're all started to come back. I've seen
circle.
Convos on a lot of cars now as well.
What is that, like a 225?
Yeah, they're a 225 radial. We did have a 235 on it, but it was just a little bit too big for this setup. Like, we could have either got the diff shortened for an extra 10 mil. There's a lot of room under there still, but they actually hook up quite well too.
When I think of this era, it's just Coney suspension or K-Mac, yeah?
Yeah, this has got. We actually took a lot of time. The front end used to sag a lot. Yeah. With all the extra weight, and we hit up Petters, and we went through a couple of different sets of springs from Petters, and now that sits perfectly, no rubbing or anything. So we got Petters all around, and it gives us that nice legal height and a good stance too. BT calipers, and then it's just got a disc to suit sort of the caliper and stuff like that. So
is that a kit you can buy?
Yeah. There's a couple of people that sell them. But we buy all our stuff through one of our sponsors at High Tech Brakes. Yep. He sells a whole kit to suit the Geminis.
Those guys have sponsored you guys for years.
Yeah, very long time. They've pretty much been our #1 sponsor.
B&M Quick Shifter, Corey.
Yes, B&M Quick Shift.
Haven't seen one of them for a while.
We've always had them in our Geminis.
And this is engineered with a roll cage?
Yeah, it's engineered with a 6-point cage. The only thing that we really had to do was
side.
It does have intrusion bars. We couldn't have them for the street. So luckily they were removable. We had a lot of people that'll come through and say, I want to build a car with, say 250, 300 kilowatt, and I want to drive it on nice summer nights. We don't want to be broken down overheating. Yeah. So that's why we use this as a test mule in a sense. Yeah. To say, yeah, well, our car with that much power does this with this setup, and if we break shit, we break stuff, and that's it.
Do you want to give us a bit of a rundown on this one? Because this is essentially like this car, but on steroids.
This car is that car on steroids.
We have featured low PSI before. We did a bit of a video at Calder after you ran
876.
876.
At 155, yep.
In this. And this, like that one, is just a little Isuzu engine?
The same engine, just obviously on steroids. So it's got the same manifold, just with 8 injectors. It's got the same turbo that it had on when we when you guys featured it last time. But the only difference is, when we filmed that video, we said that it might go a bit quicker with a 5-speed clutchless, and that's the only difference we've made.
And that's what you've actually done.
And that's what we've gone through and done, and that is proving, for what the testing that we've done, it's gone really well. Like, it's on lower boost, it's mile an hour at half track. It went 128 mile an hour to half track on 4 pound, 5 pound less boost, with a very slow 60 foot because it had old slicks on it. And yeah, it's proving. I think it went 920 at 110 mile an hour because it spat one of the Welsh plugs out of the head, and it just nosed over.
Yep.
But
you don't run water in this though, do you?
No, there's no more water in this. When it did have water, but now after that we just said no, I don't want to risk it, and just taken all the water out of it.
But this must be pretty fun to drive, I imagine.
Oh, it's crazy to drive. I've always, when it had the auto in it, it had like an auto shift on it, so I've always driven with 2 hands, and now I'm steering it like crazy with, on a small tire, the clutchless. There's just that much going through your head, and yeah, it does work though, so that's good.
What's your ultimate sort of aim in this? I know it's
look,
hard
it's hard to say, but we would like to go very low 8s.
Yeah.
End goal would be just to dip into the 7s. I think it's very capable to do it, but obviously with Heathcote getting better now, I think it is obviously definitely on the cards.
When we're talking those sorts of speeds, everything's got to align.
Everything's got to be perfect, especially with the small. We changed so many things, so now it's just trying to iron out one thing at a time. But I think when the car is running at 100%, and I've got the balls to turn it up and run it at its full potential, I think it's going to be a very fast car.
What do you turn it to?
We haven't really revved it, but it revs to 9.5. I mean, we've got it sort of turned down at the moment, so I'm shifting at 8,500. But yeah, with the manual, it should, sort of 9.2, 9.3 should have started shifting. So yeah. So
seeing as these engines getting pretty long in the tooth now, is it hard to find?
It's getting a bit harder to find the engines because people are just leaving them outside or just throwing them away, sort of thing. Because a lot of people do, all the LS conversions and stuff, and because they're getting harder to find, they are so much more expensive. You used to be able to pick up a block for $50-100. Now you can't get them just as a long motor for minimum 200, and they've all 90% of them all been bought. $200. I know, but it's just hard to find them as well. It's hard to find them as well. That's the hardest part, is just finding them.
Yeah, I know. It's getting like that with everything.
Yeah. We've changed like some of the we've changed the pistons in it. It's got a different head on it now. It's got we just had a new head made all up for it. But other than that, like, the block is the same block that's been in the car for 15 years. And as I said earlier, like, if I could have it as a daily, it's a perfect daily driver. Yeah. If it wasn't so expensive to run on fuel and stuff. The hardest part is trying to leave these cars anywhere as well.
I know.
You leave it at a shopping centre or something, and then they get pinched by the time you come out.
You can't leave anything out of your sight.
It's great though, like, the police really, respect this car. It's not, beaten up, it looks nice and clean on the outside. It's engineered, so that's obviously another turning point. A lot of guys will build these high horsepower cars and they won't engineer them, and if they get pulled over, as me and my dad always say, it's a street car until it's not a street car.
Oh yeah.
You get pulled over, and the first cop that knows what he's talking about will give you a canary straight away. Whereas, unless there is something that's unroadworthy on the car, they can't really canary us. But even if they do, and it's something on a roadworthy item, we just show the book that we have. And then
the silly thing about it is, like, the amount of money people spend on these cars now, the engineering process, if you're smart about it, it doesn't add that much total cost.
It only cost us $1,300 to get the car engineered. And that's from, like, with the engineer, what he did pick was just little things that we could do over a weekend if we wanted to. But obviously, it's a bit harder to find things. Like, he pretty much just picked, we took it to him with a different diff in it that we knew wasn't going to pass, but we just took it there just to get a baseline on what we needed to do.
Well, I appreciate you showing us the Gemini.
Yeah, no worries. Corey, thanks for coming out.
Hopefully we'll see that 9-second pass.
Yeah, hopefully.
Soon.
Hopefully very shortly. Hopefully the next time we go out, we'll The only thing really is going to be the tyre size, that we might have to change the cam or something in it just to help it rev a little bit. But yeah, other than that, hopefully, if it runs a 9.99, I know a lot of people on the internet that know nothing about drag racing, but they'll say that's not a 9-second pass, and you guys say it in bench talk, but a 9 is a 9. As soon as it runs a 9-second pass, I'll just park it up and just keep it as a nice, you know, cruiser on the weekends, and that's it.
Just about to go for a little ride in the Beast.